Greetings Mercedes lovers, welcome to my Mercedes channel and welcome to my garage. And today I'm back working on the W202, and today there are two issues that I'll be working on. First issue is the fuel leak that developed on my left hand side fuel sending unit, and second issue, kind of related to that, is that my fuel gauge sometimes after the car's parked for a long time does not register the correct fuel level. I had that happen a few times, and every single time I would add some seafoam, and that helped. I thought I'll try and fix this issue as well. So let's start. Before we go ahead, I wanted to give you guys some background information. So as you're looking in the diagram, the W202 chassis fuel tank has two sending units. Now why is that? Because the fuel tank is divided into two chambers because of the U-shape cutout. The upper portion of the chambers are connected to each other, and the lever type fuel level sensors, Venturi siphon, and the fuel lines from left to the right fuel tank chambers are installed on the lower part of the chambers. The fuel tank capacity is approximately 16.3 gallons, which makes it about 62 liters, of which approximately 2.1 gallons or 8 liters are reserve capacity. And since we will be working around fuel, first step always is to disconnect the battery. Now, if you all know that the battery is located in the trunk over here, we just go, make sure that you remove negative or ground, and there's no more power. Now, after you've disconnected the battery, you can drain the fuel safely. In order to remove the sending units, we need to drain the fuel from the fuel tank, because sending units are located on the bottom of the tank. Now, remove the fuel relay and power up the fuel pump through the fuel relay contact. I didn't really want it to mess around with all the hoses around the fuel pump, so I chose a different way. Next, you're gonna have to jack up the car just to gain some access to the fuel sending units. And as I mentioned before, they are located on the bottom of the tank towards the front of the vehicle. So to get to that, you're gonna need to remove two little covers. There's 3 bolts holding each cover. I already removed that. And you're gonna see the sending unit, and in order to drain the fuel, you're gonna have to use this little device. It's basically just a fitting and a hose. So in order to make the drain hose, what you want to do is go to your nearest hydraulic supply store and buy a fitting. This is M18 by 1.5 and JC-8 fitting. So get one of these fittings and then go to automotive supply store and buy a 3/16 fuel hose. I got about 5 feet of the fuel hose here. When you get the fuel hose, take a caliper or something and measure the OD of the hose, and you're gonna take a drill bit and you're gonna drill out the inside of the fitting in such a way that the hose fits inside the fitting like that, but you don't want it to be too loose. Basically just snug in such a way that you can actually push the hose through, but you don't want it to be too loose for the hose to fall out. And obviously you're gonna have to pull this electrical plug in order to remove this unit. So pull both electrical connections to the sanding units and then proceed. And you're gonna drain the fuel from both sanding units. If you look at the sanding unit, on the bottom of each unit you're gonna see this plug. You can use an 8mm hex, remove this plug and install this device. Alright, to drain the fuel, so first you're gonna have to use a hex drive and remove this plug. So you can remove the plug and don't worry because the fuel is not gonna come out. There's a check valve inside. That white piece you see right there, that's the check valve that you're gonna have to push, and it's spring loaded, so it's just holding the fuel inside the tank. Okay, so after you remove the plug, you're gonna take the fitting. You can either lift the washer here or you can remove it. It doesn't really matter. Install the fitting. Okay, just hand tighten it. That's all it needs. Then you're gonna take the hose and insert it into the fitting. Now, if you want the fuel to start coming out of the hose, just take and push the hose all the way in. So by pushing the hose, you're gonna push that check valve all the way up. That's gonna open up this valve, and the fuel is gonna start coming out of the end of the hose. If you want to stop the fuel, if you want to change the jerry can or any cause, you want to stop it, just pull the hose back a little bit. And you will be draining the fuel from both sanding units. After you've drained the fuel using this device, now on the left hand side sanding unit, you're gonna see a fitting that's connected to a fuel line running towards the engine. So you're gonna have to use two wrenches, hold this nut and undo the other nut and separate this connection and let the fuel drain. Be aware that it's gonna take a while to drain the fuel in such a way because it's gonna be a very slow drain. So prepare maybe a few hours for that. So now that you've drained all the fuel, you can continue and remove the locking rings that are holding sanding units. So the locking ring looks like that, and that's what's holding the fuel sanding unit. Now obviously the best way to remove this locking ring is to have a Mercedes tool. Mercedes part number for the tool is 202 589000700. You can buy it off eBay, but that's gonna set you back about $100. I found the tool on Amazon for about $57, but the reviews weren't great, so I'm not gonna use the tool. I'll find another way. So there's another way to deal with the ring, and for that you can take two screwdrivers and take the biggest wrench you have. I happen to have a 24mm wrench, and you can do that. Just take a screwdriver like that, insert it in, put another screwdriver in another hole opposite at 180 degrees, move the wrench, and then pushing the screwdrivers and holding them, you can give it a tag and this ring will come off. Now you can pull the sanding units out of the fuel tank. regarding removing this sanding units out of the tank. So if you see, the opening of the tank is the size of this plate. So what you're gonna have to do, you're gonna have to find a way. Obviously you're gonna move this up and then kind of you see, swing it such a way so you don't damage this hose or you don't damage the float arm. The right hand side unit is pretty straightforward and pretty easy to remove. Okay, now there's a little more complicated is the left hand side unit, because you have two hoses connected to here. Now one is a male connection and one is female connection over here. So the female connection that goes here, it's pretty much the same as you see here. Now to make this easier to pull, what I've done, I've taken a pick tool and I got it under this retaining ring or split ring, and I moved this ring back over here. So when you do that, you have a little bit more flexibility and pulling that connection out, because you're gonna have an O-ring inside, and I was really cautious not to damage or not to break any of these connections. So pulling that retaining ring back, it kind of helps. Now when you're gonna have this unit, you're gonna have to work it a little bit out, because to get to the hoses that connect to this side, careful, you're gonna have to pull it out like that, and pretty much the hoses, the two black hoses that connect into here, they will have to be pulled out of the tank. Well, not exactly out of the tank, but the ends, they will be sticking out of that tank opening. So that should be doable. It's not that complicated. Try not to lose the hoses, because later on you're gonna have to reconnect. So after you slide the rings off, you can slide them back into place and get these connections to be ready for connecting when you install this unit. Now I'm going to test both units to see why my fuel level gauge shows wrong readings. And first one is the left hand side sanding unit. And you can see that all the readings are nice and steady, no jumps, no nothing. So this sanding unit seems to be working okay. Now this is a right hand side sanding unit. Oh, I can see that it's jumping up and down. You see how it jumps to 300 ohm. And if I move the arm back and forth, you can see that it actually loses connection. So I think that's kind of the reason for the bad readings. So I'm gonna have to take this sanding unit apart, clean it up, and reassemble. Yep, that's definitely where the problem is. So this needs fixing. So I'm gonna try and repair the sanding unit. What I suspect is happening is this arm is moving left and right, and that contact or little shoe that's riding on this two contacts and supposed to transmit to be in contact with both of them, seems like it gets loose and loses contact. So there's a little leaf spring over there in this piece, and that leaf spring is supposed to push this contact and to hold it in full contact with the two slides. So I want to tell you guys that since this is almost a 20-something-year-old car, be very careful because the plastic might turn brittle depending on the condition of the car and depending which part of the world that car's been operating. So to start, we need to remove this bar, and to remove it, there's a little clip on the bottom and you're gonna see it. So you pull it and this comes out. Okay, now we need to remove the arm, and if you notice, the arm or this wire is just clipped into this plastic bracket or plastic holder. So we need to unclip it and pull this wire arm out. Okay, so there's one clip on the bottom. Now the top one. And that seems to be more difficult. Okay, so this arm is out. Now I can just slide it out. So that's the arm. Set it aside. And now you can just slide out this plastic piece. And there's nothing else left on the housing itself, so I'm gonna set it aside, and now we're gonna concentrate on that little arm and the slider. So you see, this is this little leaf spring, and this is the shoe. So now to clean up, need to remove this little shoe out, and to pull it out you're gonna see that there are two little tabs over here that you need to push with a screwdriver, and this shoe is gonna come out. Just very careful. Just alternate, and you saw this shoe came out, and now you can see that's the leaf spring. Okay, now I'm gonna take a little piece of I'm actually using a 2000 grit sandpaper, and I'm gonna clean up this area, and I'm gonna clean up this little leaf spring, even though it doesn't need to, but just to since I'm already here, and mainly need to clean up the two contacts, remove any oxidation or even any dirt or anything. Okay, so a little piece of this, And I'm just gonna clean up slightly. Okay, I think that's gonna do it. Okay, so we'll set this aside. Now this leaf spring doesn't really need to be cleaned because the only function is to push this little shoe against the two contacts, but I'm just gonna give it a little rub. And the main thing with the spring that I want to kind of restore it and bend it back. So if you see over the years this gets pushed and basically weakens the spring, so I'm gonna give it a little tag and bend it just slightly up so it has a little bit more resistance. Now we're gonna go and clean up this last piece. Alright, and now this must be ready. Okay, I'm just gonna bend this little tabs a little back. Alright, they should do it. Now this doesn't need any adjustment, and this obviously. So that's pretty much it. Now we can put all these things back together. So to start with, we need to insert this little shoe back into this holding bracket. Okay, so just slide it and you can see that now has some spring to it, also has the ability to move, so it can adjust to the angle of this bracket. Okay, so that's ready. Now we're gonna go to the back of this unit, take this and insert it into here. Make sure you line up the hole. Now I can put the float back. Okay, make sure you line it up. Okay. Okay, now the interesting part. I need to clip the arm into place. Same time, I don't want to push really hard onto this bracket, so I'm gonna have to put something behind it. Okay, so put a screwdriver and clicked in. Alright, so that's arm is assembled. And now we're going to put this little security device that basically this little piece keeps this arm from falling out. So that goes in like so, and now just clip it in. Alright, so that's all the assembly and all the little TLC for this unit. And to finish this repair, let's test it. Let's see how this repair, if it worked or not. Alright, so here you see I've assembled my test fixture. That's my test multimeter, and now I just want to use something, and I'm going to test to see how this thing does. Well, it seems that it keeps the reading and works pretty good. Now I just want to test if I move this arm back and forth, if it still maintains the contact, because that was one of the problem, and it was somewhere in the mid-range. So I'm gonna go mid-range, and I'm gonna push this arm back and forth, and I can see that has a very good steady contact. It's not losing the circuit. So I think that's all the repair. Alright, so now need to address the second issue, and that, as I suspect, it was the leaky gasket. So I went to a Mercedes and I bought two gaskets. You can see part number is 202-997-0645. Where is that? Okay, so these are the two seals that need to be replaced. Need to pull the gasket, and let's try. Okay, so this step of the repair is completed. Now just need to go and reinstall this sanding units back into the tank. Okay, so this step of the repair is completed. Now just need to go and reinstall this sanding units back into the tank. Alright guys, so filming conditions are not the best in here because it's very tight under the car, but you can see this is the place where right hand side a sensor goes. So I just inspected if I have any deposit on the bottom there. I took a lint-free rag like this, and I just went in, put it in, and wiped on the bottom. There's a little bit of fuel left in there, so I just wiped, had a little bucket on it so it doesn't leak on the floor, and just pulled it out, and I looked, so don't see any dirt, dust, or any gray matter, so that's kind of encouraging. So it means that the fuel tank has no deposits on the bottom, so therefore I can just clean up this mating surface where the O-ring goes, and I can install the sanding unit. Alright, so here I got my sanding unit. Now I just need to figure out, so you're gonna see on the housing on this metal plate there's a tab that needs to fit. The tab, you can see the tab is located right here. This tab should fit over here. Alright, so that's lining up the tab. And now I can put the locking ring in. Okay. So ideally, Mercedes specifies 55 Newton meters torque on this locking ring. And also I need to remember to tighten this plug. But since I don't have the tool, I'm gonna have to kind of do it manually. So I found the tool like that. I'll show it later in a video. So I'm gonna use that to tighten this ring, and hopefully I can get it close to 55 Newton meters. Well, I think they should do it. I don't think I need to go anymore. So we'll see when I fill it up with fuel if it's gonna leak or not. Alright, so that's done. Now I'm gonna need an 8mm hex to tighten that, and then just plug in the connector. Okay, and I'm gonna go get the 8mm hex. Okay. Alright, so that's the right hand side. Let's move to the left hand side. Alright, so now let's see if I can. Now we're gonna do the left hand side. Alright, I'm just gonna check this. Now I also want to check inside, see if there's any dirt in there. Let's see if I can put the camera so you guys can see. Alright, so now I just need to get myself into position. like so. Just want to wipe the bottom, put the bucket under and get the rag out. No, it's all nice and clean. All right, now I can put the sanding unit in. Now putting this sanding unit is a little bit more complicated because I need to fish the hoses out of there, and here they are, and fuel is leaking on my hand. So there's one and there's two. Okay, also, so this sanding unit goes in like so. So the way we need to put in, all right, first obviously we need to put this little split ring back into its place, so because I did remove it to make easy to remove, to unclip it. So let's see if I can put it back. Oops. Okay, come on out. Okay, so that seems like it's sitting in place. Now I'm just gonna clip this one and clip two. So that's in. Now I need to lift that and fit this unit in. Okay, that kind of like so. All right, so that seems like sits in place. Now I need to put this ring in. Come on. We need to. And of course at the end, don't forget to double check that you've tightened all the plugs, that you've tightened all the connections. And this is, I want to show you the tool. that I've used to tighten that lock ring. A buddy of mine gave it to me, so I don't really know where to get one like that. I don't even know what's the purpose for the tool. The only thing I can tell you, it's hard to read, but over here it says Groco, which is Groco, and the number is right here is SW2531. Yeah, this tool works pretty good. The only thing is that you can't really measure the torque, so you have to rely on your kind of a elbow torque. That's pretty much it, but we'll see how it works. After I fill up with the gas, I'm gonna double check if I do have any fuel leaks or not. So yesterday I was working on replacing the fuel sending unit seals, and this is the next day I come in and I don't feel any smell of the fuel. So let's check how does it look under the car. Well, just looking under the car and trying to smell, everything seems dry, and that was the unit, the left hand side, that it was leaking. Let's see the right hand. Yeah, seems to be dry. Well, I guess I'll have to drive the car for a while and see how it goes. At this point, seems like the fuel leak has been fixed. I will just have to see how the fuel level repair works. Well, at this point, I want to thank you for watching this video and see you later.